Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Well, we're talking about the probably for most people the most frustrating time for bird feeding that there is during the year, and that is the end of summer and the start of the fall. There's a lot of common mistakes that can be made during that time of year that can be avoided. And there's I'm gonna give you lots of them, but believe me, patience is going to be a common message here. Berries are ripening, and birds are taking advantage of all that. Well, we look out at our feeders and we're used to seeing, this kind of a scene. Lots of birds eating in our bird feeders, and all during the summer, we were getting lots of babies and lots of house finches, lots of house sparrows, things like that. And that could be very frustrating for a lot of us that you're feeding a lot of birds, and that's okay, but it's just not the diversity that we're used to seeing and that we expect at our feeders, and so we slip into a couple of bad habits that you really want to avoid, and then how to get those birds back in the later whenever the cool weather sets in. So I'm going to go through some mistakes to avoid and ways maybe that you can help with that. So first off, in this time of year is the moths, the Mediterranean meal moths that they get into your bird seed, and they lay their eggs in there and they hatch, and you get the little white caterpillars and the cocoons and things like that. Well, this I have to remind you: do not store your birdseed inside. These are my galvanized cans that outside my house, at the old house where I store my birdseed all year long. And you remember, during the winter months when it's good and cold, you don't have to worry about them very much. Now, if you keep them inside, you keep your birdseed anywhere close to like heating vents and things in the winter, they can hatch then too. But if they hatch when the temperatures get up in the mid 80s and higher, then and they hatch outside in these cans, it really doesn't make any difference. The birds will eat those little caterpillars and the bugs and anything else that may be in there, but you do not want them in your house. Take my word for it. They are a major pain, and they really are hard to get rid of once they've gotten into your house. So I have a whole video on just that, and I'll put a link in the description below. And you can check the description below for other videos and links and for more information. So, how do you avoid it? Well, the aluminum cans outside, well, people say, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, make sure you do simple things like rotating your seed within your feeder. The aspect finch feeders especially have a flip to fill, we call it, where you can turn the feeder upside down, and the seed that's in there goes to the top. You take the bottom off and you pour your fresh seed inside, put the top back on, and that way you're always rotating that seed. So it does build up and get old in the bottom of the seed. So that's a really easy way to keep your seed rotated. Remember, you should never keep bird seed in a feeder longer than a month. And if you've been in that long, you really do need to toss it, throw it out in the woods, let the critters have it, as we say, but keep that fresh. And if you don't, if it's getting to where the birds are that slow, just don't put so much in your feeder. Just keep it about half full or a quarter full. That way you're not throwing it away so much of it. And then another great solution, especially if you buy smaller bags and so you don't have a lot of room to store it. Yeah, I used to do this for my mom. I tell this all the time that I would take her home a 20-pound bag of finch seed mainly, and find sunflower chips. And I would pour it into several Ziploc bags for her, and I would put it in her freezer. And then she could just take out that little Ziploc bag and put that in the feeder. And then when that ran out, then she could go in and get another. And that kept the bugs from germinating and pupating inside the birdseed bags, and kept them from becoming a problem. And that's if you, I always advise buying smaller bags of birdseed during the summer, especially late summer. And then in the fall, whenever the bird feeder season is going to be really kicking off, which usually for us in our area, depends on where you are, but in our area, it really kicks in about the second week, maybe of November. And then, we kind of officially say the bird feeder season is really mid-November through July. And it's when that first good cold snap settles into the area. Now, the other thing you really should do during this time, because it's really easy to ignore your feeders a bit and let them get dirty. And that is to clean your bird feeders really well. It's a great time to rotate, take it down, your bird feeders, give them a really good washing, especially with it this slow. The birds are not going to miss it. They're not coming that often anyways. So, I've got whole videos on how to clean your bird feeders. We'll put a description in video link in the description below. You may not have a power washer, which is great to use, but if you do, get them good and clean, because the heavy bird feeding season is just coming around the corner. And if you're a regular follower, I've got to talk about water. If people that get tired of and frustrated and even take their bird feeders down this time of year, that's fine. The only negative probably of that is it's possible if you take them down for an extended period, like all summer, then you may have a longer wait in the fall for the birds to find you again. They will find you, I promise you that. It's just that if you keep your feeders stocked, and at least, like I said, not some people take down several bird feeders in the summer, but not all, to keep birds coming, and the feeder station part of their feeding route that they have around your neighborhood. But water is key, and it needs to be up all year long. This is a Cooper's hawk stopped by my bird bath on my deck just the other day, and it's really dry here right now in Kansas City, and so the bird baths are getting good attention. These are my little videos I go through every night on my Blink camera, and I'm going through house finch, house finch, house finch, house finch, house finch, house sparrow, house sparrow, house sparrow. Oh no, look at Cooper's hawk. So that was really cool. He stopped by for a drink, and I've had an eastern phoebe coming and drinking, which this is the first time I've ever had an eastern phoebe at my bird bath, and it's really dry. So water, I'm always going to talk about water. Another mistake people make this time of year is they take their hummingbird feeders down too early. No, there's no truth to the old wise tale, if that's what you want to call it. If you leave your hummingbird feeders up, the birds will stay too long and starve to death or freeze to death. That's not true. The birds that migrate on day length, their bodies trigger them when to go, and they will leave. When they get a good wind from the back, coming out of the north, will push them, and they'll fatten up. They get to the weight they want to, and when the conditions are right, they'll leave. Now, the reason I say taking them down too early is a mistake is if you're willing to maintain them, if you're willing to keep the nectar and the feeders clean, those late birds, that there are always late birds and there are always early birds, those late birds are the ones that are going to need a source of nectar worse. So the flowers are dying back at that time, and a good hummingbird feeder with nectar in it can be really important to a late straggling hummingbird coming through. So as long as you're willing to maintain it and keep it clean, I know regularly, I had 2 hummingbirds that were still here 2 days ago. I have not seen them in the last 2 days, but I'm leaving it. I'm cleaning it, putting it back out, because I know there may be some late birds that come through. So we've had them as late as Thanksgiving here in the Kansas City area. I usually, if I don't have anything by mid-October, I've usually will take mine down. But I know people who are dedicated. They keep them up, well into November in case there is a straggler. So don't take your hummingbird feeders down too early. Now, I promise that patience was the key here. Just know this happens every year. We call it the September slowdown, and October is even worse. And one of the things that fools people is the goldfinches. Goldfinches in the spring, when they're at our bird feeders, we get to see them molt from their drab olive winter plumage into the bright yellow canary plumage. And this bird's about 50-50. He's in the molt. Well, what we get fooled by is in the fall, these birds are pretty much abandon your bird feeders for nature's bounty. So they move out into the farm edges, field edges, eating on seeds that are out there, the buffet line, as I call it. And while they're out there in the fall, they're molting from the bright yellow plumage, the males are, from the bright canary yellow plumage to the olive drab winter plumage. And when they show back up, and for years we've been saying that the finch season is really like December through July. But when they get that first freezing and thawing and good cold weather, they'll get pushed back into your feeders, but they just won't be bright yellow. So patience. The birds are coming back, and like I said, don't fill your feeders quite as full as you do most of the year, and keep them clean. Make sure you rotate that seed, keep that seed fresh. Use the methods, rotate it in your feeders, keep it in the freezer or the refrigerator to keep the bugs out of it. Clean your bird feeders, and just know that the winter birds, the fall season birds are coming in, and your feeders will really pick up. Juncos will be here before you know it. So it's a great idea for a program. So your birds will reward you. And in December, whenever the bird feeders are active, this fall period will be an ancient memory, as we say. So great idea for a program. I appreciate you suggesting that. Until next time, let's talk birds.